Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we will take a look at some new revenge content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
First one is titled, Trick a Naive Woman into Paying for Unnecessary Car Parts? You'll lose business from the entire community and your job. My family is from a pretty small town. It has a population of roughly 3,500 people, mostly old folks, but it serves as a hub of commerce for all the surrounding towns. Due to this, my town has a handful of car dealerships and the one my family buys from is the most popular of all the local dealerships. So a few years ago during harvest season, one came home to help out and it just so happened that my car, 1998 and in excellent shape, needed an oil change. Given that it's the busy season and my family is occupied trying to pull the crop from the ground, I decide to take my car into the local GM dealership. This dealership has been selling vehicles and parts to my family for literal generations, so I trusted them. I pull in, toss my keys into the hands of one of the mechanics after some idle chatter and then get cozy in the waiting room. Less than a half hour passes and I'm approached by the sales manager, Ronald, who is holding a stack of papers. Now Ronald is one of the older men within the dealership. He's stern-faced and well-respected in his position. So when he sticks a pile of paperwork under my nose and tells me my brakes are going and they needed to be replaced as soon as possible or else, I'm rightfully scared. Now I'm a young woman and I know almost nothing about cars. So what do? I call my dad. My dad answers my call, irritated because he's being interrupted in the middle of his work, and tells me to order the parts and he'll replace the brake pads himself. So I relay this to the sales manager. He begrudgingly hands me over to parts manager. The information I was given was that my brake pads were almost entirely into the red, and my rotor needed to be replaced as well because it was almost entirely rusted out. I find this information to be strange. You can usually tell when your brakes are going, right? So a simple repair easily turns into a $400 plus expense. I'm a university student and after buying what I was told to I knew I was going to be eating only ramen for the rest of the month. Some time passes, harvest is done and my dad comes storming into the house one day. Now what you need to know was that my dad has an explosive temper. He will lose his shit over the small inconvenience. But this time his rage was almost entirely silent, save for the stomping and slamming of the doors. It's then I'm told to put on some pants because we're going into town. The entire 15 minutes of the trip was quiet. I was silently shitting myself the whole way until we pulled up to the dealership. For some context, my family is a relatively big name in our community as my father and three of my uncles all have their own separate homegrown businesses. A lot of their success is owed to some of the community and as a way of saying thanks, my family frequently makes donations to public projects. So it's pretty difficult to do business in town without running into someone who shares my surname. Inside the dealership, my dad tells me to sit down and shut up while he storms into the sales manager's office, closing the door behind him. My dad almost instantly explodes with rage and even through the shut door everyone in the dealership heard exactly what my dad had to say. To summarize, Ronald, the sales manager, lied to me. Which isn't much of a surprise. You hear stories about people getting the wool pulled over their eyes all the time. Especially women. Turns out, when my dad graciously began to replace my brake pads, he noticed immediately that I had been told a load of BS. My brake pads were hardly worn and my rotor was perfectly fine. His only daughter had been tricked out of a lot of money and he was upset. So my dad replaced everything and gave Ronald what was coming. He laid it out, telling Ronald exactly what he was going to do. My dad was going to tell everyone. He was going to tell his business partners, his friends, my uncles and their customers, and everyone in the local pub that night the truth and how everyone's favorite GM dealership tried to screw over his kid. My dad is a pretty popular guy and he knew how to work the power that small towns held. You see, if the daughter of an influential businessman can get screwed over, what about everyone else's kids and grandkids? In less than a week, word had spread across the entire town. That same year, the amount of GM vehicles around town became fewer and fewer. A new parts shop opened up next door to my uncle's electrical shop, and it just so happens the Ford dealership in town built a brand new building to accommodate the influx of business just last year. I know firsthand that my family, extended included, buy their GM and Chevy vehicles from the province next door. I'm absolutely certain that if this town wasn't as small as it was, nothing would have happened to the dealership or Ronald. But it goes to show the power of tight-knit communities. Old Ronald was eventually encouraged to retire. And the best part? My dad and I left the dealership that day with a personal check tucked in my wallet as an apology. No more ramen for me. Next one is titled, Why I Became Employee of the Month. Background. I've been friends with Guy, Buddy, for a long time. We were like two peas in a pod and would hang out most of the time in high school. I'd frequently spend time at his house and became close with his family. The only person who didn't like me was his bitchy aunt, who we'll call Medusa. She doesn't like Buddy because she uses to be the center of attention and relished in it before Buddy came along. After I was well liked by his family as well, Medusa hated me too. She constantly belittles me whenever I was over. Asked me all the time why I was at her house, even though she doesn't pay rent or help out around the house. All she does is bitch and moan that Buddy had someone over. Because of her, I don't go over to his anymore. Flash forward to this past January. For some reason, Medusa referred Buddy as a cook at this restaurant she works at. I won't say which one because it's a local restaurant. In turn, Buddy asked the boss if they were looking for barbacks and asked to talk to me because I had some experience. I was hired on the spot by our boss. Medusa did not like this at all. After I was hired, Medusa would continuously belittle me whenever I messed up the slightest thing, spread rumors about why I was hired, and would constantly tell me to do stuff that wasn't my problem. Although this would take people away from the job entirely, people didn't really care about what she had to say. The reason being is that I'm really good at my job, and one of my favorite coworkers was one of the few people who stood up for me. Coworker was also the one who I get along with the most besides Buddy. Because of the support from Buddy and coworker, no one paid much attention when Medusa tried to bash me. Cut to mid-March, I was in a very groggy mood. I had just played a show for St. Patrick's Day and was pretty hammered that night. Needless to say, I was a tad hungover and not in the mood to work the next morning. I see Medusa start walking towards me. Medusa. Do you like coworker? Me. No? Why do you ask? Medusa. You're always flirting with her. I do, but that's just how we are with each other, and you come see her after you go to the gym. Me. So, she is my friend, am I not allowed to do that? Medusa. No, you can do whatever, it's just a little suspicious, is all. Me. Well, even if I did, I don't date coworkers. Medusa. I don't know. Never say never. At this point, I was done with the conversation and clock in. During my shift I get agitated by Medusa's comments about how I treat coworker. Maybe coworker said something to Medusa? Maybe coworker was half serious about flirting back? Maybe? I gave her a text saying something about what Medusa said to me. Coworker was not happy and snapped back at me for falling for Medusa's tricks. We made up and talked about it over text. A few weeks later, work announced the Employee of the Month for March that they want to start. They said the Employee of the Month gets a $200 bonus for the effort they put in. That month it went to someone else, but Medusa was pretty upset. I heard in passing that she wanted to get that bonus so she can go to some concert the following month. She also said that she would try for this month. I personally never cared for the whole Employee of the Month thing, but after the way she treated me, there was no way in hell I would let her take it. So I start doing a duck ton of extra work at the bar. Cleaning the hard-to-reach places, organize the liquor cabinets, picking up any call-out shifts for both bar back and buster, etc. I worked my butt off, going above and beyond what was asked of me. I even asked coworker to teach me how to bartend so I can pick up slack from the other bartenders. This was all happening while Medusa still belittled me as I was working. I was so determined that I ignored her requests, unless it had to do with the job. It's now May, and I eagerly await the results for Employee of the Month. I got the email and I was April's Employee of the Month. I was so relieved that all that hard work finally paid off. All I had to do now was go into work and pick up the $200 bonus. Since I had the next few days off, I decided to go in on one of my off days. As I walk in the front door, Medusa comes up to me, all sweet as can be. Medusa. Hey. Me. What do you want? Medusa. Don't be so rude, after all, I am the reason you became Employee of the Month. What? Me. Oh really now? And how is that? Medusa. Oh come on, if I didn't have to keep correcting everything, you would have never got it. Me. All you did was telling me what I was doing wrong, and when I did it your way, you'd say I'm doing it wrong again. Even if I did it exactly like you said. Medusa. And? You still didn't earn it. You should just give me the bonus. It only seems fair after all the work I did to help you. I brushed by and didn't look back. I took note that both coworker and Buddy were working that morning too, so after I got the money from my boss, I go to the kitchen and gave Buddy $50. I walk up to the bar and gave coworker $50. I asked to be seated and ordered about $50 worth of food and drinks. Finally, I tipped another $50 to my server, who just so happened to be coworker. Medusa saw me do all of this and was fuming. I get up, thanked coworker for the meal, and walked out whistling a happy tune. Next month's Employee of the Month is coming up soon, and I haven't slowed since that day. Next one is titled, Wanna dump your trash on my 71-year-old mother's lawn? Okay, just don't be surprised when you get a cleaning bill from the city. With all this COVID-19 going around, I wanted to share something my mom found on her front lawn a few days ago. Some jerk decided to make my mom's front lawn his new garbage bin. There was like 3 to 4 bags of household trash stewed across her driveway and into our neighbor's driveway too. I know, gross, right? Lucky for her, she looked through some of the bags for a bill because if she got sick she wanted to let the hospital bill to go to, and she found he had left all of his personal information inside the bags, like bills, credit card numbers, phone numbers. Just saying, if you have no problem dumping your garbage on a 71-year's front lawn for her to clean up, don't be surprised when you get the cleaning bill from the city. My mom is calling the city tomorrow for them to fine him. As far as I know, our city fines for dumping start at $500 and go up. Edit. My mom's house is owned by the city and she rents from them, so technically the man who did this would be dumping on city property and might be facing a bigger fine for it. Next one is titled, Every day at 10 minutes after 6 p.m. I roll my window down and yell, "Duck you, Dwayne." Loud enough for him to hear it in his office next to the freeway ramp. I have been doing this for over a month now, every day I leave work. I used to work for, well, just use the random name Dwayne, doing hard labor concrete form work. My dumb ass carrying these 6x2 concrete forms all over job sites. Showing up at his shop readying trucks and trailers to go to jobs, humping these forms back and forth. I was in my 20s and I didn't mind the physical work. What I did mind was being screamed at for leaning up against a wall at the finish of a build waiting on my crew member on a hot day. It's like I'm ducking throwing money out of my ducking truck window on the way over here watching you work. But only 2 weeks later take me to his $1 million home and show me how beautiful it was and his basement and his hot tub and how he wanted me to clean his yard. Convincing me that working for cash overtime was a good deal instead of time and a half he wouldn't pay. Getting grants for hiring people in trade schools, and that's where he got ducked. Someone ratted him out for his cash for overtime scheme and he came looking for me to sign that I didn't work overtime for him. Duck you, Dwayne. My shoulder is wrecked early in my 20s carrying those forms around so you could live a life I'll never see. Duck you, Dwayne. Seriously, duck you, Dwayne. Next one is titled, Gum Throw Revenge. I walk around my neighborhood every evening after dinner for some exercise. About a week ago, while I'm walking down the sidewalk, I see a jacked-up green Jeep with monster tires turn onto the same road and head towards me. The Jeep looks like an older army style, so it's different than a lot of the newer Jeeps around. There's a teen, early 20s girl riding shotgun staring at me. I watched her take her gum out of her mouth, then she threw it and hit me in the shoulder. She was definitely trying to hit me. I was shocked and yelled, "You mother ducker," at her and gave her the double bird, but they sped off down the road. I've been looking out for that Jeep ever since, and I found it last night parked in a driveway about a mile from where they hit me. So I went home and found some gum and chewed it up, then wrote a note saying, "Your passenger threw this at me, so I brought it back," and stuck the gum to the note. Then I rode my bike back to their house and threw my note into the Jeep so it landed in their cup holders. I had been considering a bunch of other things to throw into that Jeep if I found it, like I also walk my dog every day and pick up her crap in nice, throwable bags, but I decided a note with a little chewed gum was good enough for me to get my petty revenge. Last one is titled, "Your Friends Can Get You Evicted." I used to live in some crappy apartments, built in the 60s for student housing then converted to regular housing. The apartments were 3 stories high with a courtyard in the middle. Rent was cheap and this attracted some interesting people. I lived on the 2nd floor and a group of college kids moved in below me. Not a big deal. My biggest issue was them yelling at their cricket at soccer matches at 3 a.m. They were international students studying in the US. But I worked the night shift and found it quite entertaining to hear the explosions of excitement and disappointment. My issue didn't start with the group living below me but their friends. The group had thrown a small party to watch a soccer match. They disbanded just before sunrise as I'm getting home from work. I enter the courtyard to head up to my apartment and notice a bunch of trash. I ignore it and go up to my apartment and fall asleep. I wake up and go outside for a cigarette and I see the neighbor's friends arrive and walking through the courtyard. As they get close I see both of them drop their trash, drink cup and McDonald's bags, into a bush in the courtyard. I got pissed. I know they had walked past 2 trash cans from the parking lot to the courtyard. Not just being lazy but intentional trashing the place. I call the property management and tell them what I saw. Management ended up having several complaints about the visitors and evicted the tenants living there. Thanks for listening.